I was born and raised in Plain Dealing, born on January the 6th, 1923. Mr. Kidd and my father, both of their wives were having babies on that night, and Dr. Bell was the only doctor in Plain Dealing, and he was tending to Mrs. Kidd and my mother, and also Mrs. Molly Banks Gray. Her heifer was having a calf, and she was worrying Dr. Bell more than Mr. Kidd or my dad, and I was the last one born, thank goodness, about 6 o'clock in the morning, so I did make it. I lettered 4 years in football, basketball, and track, and was quarterback on our semi-final. At the final, we got beat in the finals of the state championship in 1938. Quite a disappointment, because that was our only chance, I think, Plain Dealing has had of winning a state football championship. I went over in the same convoy with Judge Stagg, and he and I ran into each other. We landed in Marseille, France. So I was in combat for about 8 or 9 months, and I had a Purple Heart and Bronze Star.
Well, I thought he was awful good looking, and he was.
I tried to get a date with her that night, you know, and she said, well, I already have a date. I said, well, you can break it, you know. She said, John, I don't even know you.
John and I have 4 daughters and 4 son-in-laws and 11 grandchildren. We often laugh and say that when the Lord said, go out and multiply, we took him seriously.
Every little girl needs a dad like we had.
Poor Dad, who never had a boy, had these 4 girls, but luckily we were very athletic, mainly because of him.
All 4 of our girls played ball, and we saw every game in every place, in every rain, shine, whatever, we were there.
He was always so proud of us. I mean, and it didn't matter what we were doing. We all played, but from cheerleading, he never missed it. You know, he was there, always there, even though we knew that no matter what, he was going to the LSU Tiger game. He would wait and leave on Friday night until after we had cheered. Now, he had no son playing football, but the girls were cheering and he was there, and then he'd leave in the middle of the night on Friday night to make the Tiger game.
If we got in trouble, it was knock it off, and that was it. We never got in big trouble at all by Daddy. He's the sweetest fellow.
No spanking?
Never.
Never spanking?
Never.
Golly. Wow.
Maybe you once.
His friend offered the job for him to be the model for Vitalis.
Robbie and I would all go to my grandmother's house, and it would come on after Tombstone Territory or Gunsmoke. Those were the 2 shows that Vitalis sponsored. And Daddy would be out on the rig, and his hair would be all messed up. And then he'd go and use Vitalis and go out on a night of dancing with his wife. And we would squeal with delight when they would start dancing, and they danced so beautifully anyway. And they were such a gorgeous couple.
I remember my daddy being a very busy man. He went to the insurance agency, of course, during the day, but on the weekend, it was not unusual for him to be at the tapping of a new oil well, and also driving to Gillum to check the cotton and the cows.
Well, if you think about what junior achievement is about and teaching children and school-age kids about the values in business, I can't think of anyone else that I know of who's been a successful farmer, insurance man, oil man, banker.
When he was in the bank, for example's sake, and people would come in and want to borrow money, and he would let them have money, and then eventually somebody would come by and want to borrow money, and he would say to him, "I can't do it." And he couldn't go to sleep. It would just worry him to death. He couldn't sleep. It worried him when he couldn't help people. He wanted to help people.
I think in business that John would be a direct contradiction to the old saying that nice guys finish last. I think he's a nice guy that didn't finish last.
But the most important thing to you now
This is my family. My wife, particularly, my best friend.
Being married to John all these years has not only been wonderful, it's been fun. We've cried a little and laughed a lot, mostly at ourselves.
I can honestly say that Mom and Daddy love each other as much today, if not more, than they did then. They really have that special thing that everybody ever hopes to have.
My dad is probably the nicest person I know. He is absolutely the finest gentleman I have ever known.
He's good to the core. I don't know how else to describe how he is and how he always was. One of his most wonderful qualities is the way he loves us. It surpasses anything that I can even imagine. I can't imagine life without him.
I've known a lot of people in my life. I've never, ever known a man anywhere on the face of the earth who would do what John would do. He is so kind, so gentle, so compassionate. He is just as good a friend as God would ever let you have.
He's kind, he's loving, and he has integrity, and you can't buy any of those things. And I just think that, I just think he's just the greatest man I've ever known.
You're a very lucky man.
I really am. Yeah. I know that. I count those blessings every day.